Welcome to the Empowered Podcast, episode 27. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Ellery Wells, and I am so glad you're here. I'm always glad you're here. You have so many options of podcasts to listen to. You could be reading a book or driving in your car, talking to somebody else, watching TV, but you are sitting there or on the treadmill there listening to me and my voice and the guests that I have on the show. I really want to thank you for taking the time out of your day, whether it's a 30-minute episode, 45, or sometimes an hour. I just really appreciate that you take the time to listen to what I have to say and my message, and hopefully you're enjoying it and sharing that with the world also. This is episode 27, and I wanted to take just a half a second to just tell you, if you missed it in one of the first episodes, what my mission statement is for the podcast. This is the longer version of what I normally say, but my mission for the Empowered Podcast is really to help people with the desire to pursue their dreams, to break through the barriers that they're facing, overcome obstacles, and begin their journey, or your journey and my journey to success, by sharing the knowledge that we can get from the guides who have gone before us. And I want to help you realize that you can live the life of your dreams and seize new opportunities if you're willing to get out of your comfort zone and take the first step. That's the mission of the Empowered Podcast, and that's my mission, to help you, to help us both. You as the listener, me as the host, and also my guests. There's a next level for all of us, and I want to help each and every one of us to get there. In today's episode, I wanted to share a chat, I guess I should say, with Alex Harris. I met Alex at the Platform Conference in November, and what he talks about is something that I need help with. If you have a blog or a website, you need help with it too. And Alex talks about optimizing a website, which colors work best. Have you ever noticed that LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and I think even Mashable and a handful of other sites, they're all blue? And I have blue on my website. And that's because blue, just as an example, is a color that establishes trust, I think it is. There's like red can also be passion. It can also be anger and some of those things. Brown can mean you're down to earth. I don't know if Alex and I necessarily get into too many of the color tones, but those are just some of the pieces of research that marketing optimization experts do, and Alex has been doing this as a business owner for quite a long time. We learn about how he went through the internet boom, what he was doing at the time and how he came through it stronger on the other side. And he also shares how he got his very first client. So if you're in a position that you're looking for your very first client, or you're looking for your second client, I know we talked about this with Cynthia Sanchez, but Alex will share how he got his first client as well. One more thing before we go into the episode, I wanted to mention a couple things. The beginning of May, so today is, what is today? March the 26th. At the beginning of May, I am hosting a mastermind weekend. If you love camping, you have to love camping. But if you love camping and you love masterminds, down in Austin, Texas, just about an hour north of Austin, in a town called Georgetown, I am hosting on Lake Georgetown a mastermind weekend. It's a 3-day event. Show up anytime on Friday. The registration will be open from 1 until about 10 p.m. We have events and people talking Friday night, all day Saturday, except for a little free time in the afternoon. We're going to be talking about business, how to grow your business, how to get your first customer, your first client, how to grow it, what challenges are you facing? Typical mastermind things all around the campground setting. And then Sunday morning, I'll feed you breakfast. We'll have a few wrap-up discussions, and then off you go. I'm really looking forward to that. If you are interested, you don't have to be in the Central Texas area, but it might help. I don't want you to have to drive 12 hours to get here. That'd be kind of cool, though. Head over to mmweekend.com, which stands for mastermindweekend.com. So go to mmweekend.com. There's 3 different packages for you depending on what you're looking for, what level of convenience you'd like. If you're commuting a long ways, you might be interested in the higher package because I'll take care of all of your food for you and things like that. I'm really excited about that. That's the very first weekend in May. That's mmweekend.com. I have one more announcement about masterminds after the episode, so stick around and I'll give you that. Without further delay, we'll go right into my chat with Alex Harris of Alex Designs. Thank you for tuning in to the Empowered Podcast today. I'm here with Alex Harris of Alex Designs. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm doing excellent.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today. We met a few weeks ago, and I've been following what you've been doing on social media and everything for the last several weeks. And you just launched a fantastic podcast that's just blowing up on iTunes. And I'm really excited to have you on the show today.
Me too. I'm feeling super empowered, Ellery, and I'm very excited to be on your show today.
Well, good. Well, just so that everybody knows a little bit about who you are, would you give us some background and just a teaser of how you got there, and we may dive into that a little bit later?
Yeah, I'm just a good old boy. I live in South Florida, and I'm a web designer. I have my own business now. I work from home doing freelance web design. It's all focused on helping websites make more money from their designs and the traffic that they make. And that's really it. I went to FSU for studio art, and I started working as a web designer in the year 2000.
Talk to us a little bit from you had worked at an internet company, I think, or a marketing company several years ago. How you transitioned from that to, hey, I'm going to strike out on my own and I'm going to do this myself.
Yeah, it's actually a really empowering story. I worked at a dotcom starting in the year 2000, and I worked there for 11 years. And you can imagine being in the corporate world, like all you ever want to do is really go out on your own, especially being a web designer. So really, it was always my dream to have, create my own studio at home, work from home, have my own lifestyle I wanted. And that's really what my goal was when I first started working. I learned so much from the people around me at that .com. And really what I found is that there's a big difference between someone who designs websites and somebody who designs websites that actually help make money. There's a big difference between a pretty website and a website that actually converts.
Yeah, I guess anybody could technically throw up a website. I remember GeoCities, and I've heard a few jokes about GeoCities over the last few weeks, but like I said, making one that looks good and converts. Now, tell me a little bit, just for the people who don't know, what do you mean by convert?
Yeah, so as I was at this .com, we would create landing pages where we would drive search traffic to these pages. I think most of your audience knows what a landing page is. It could be the page that you land from Facebook, or it could be the page that you land from search. And what we really found was, in order to figure out how to get the customer to not only put their email address in, but eventually put their credit card in, you really need to figure out a way to persuade them correctly to solve the problem that they came for. So the corporation that I work for was a diet and fitness website. So we focused on helping mostly women lose weight. So the trigger was, what do they want to lose weight for? For instance, if a woman wanted to lose weight for her wedding, then she would look online for a way to lose weight. And we would be there at her pain point to deliver her a solution for that problem that she had. So if she was able to come over from search and get to the landing page, and we were able to actually change her from a prospect to a lead, and then eventually to a customer, that's converting the user. So the amount of visitors that you have coming in divided by the amount of sales that you get, that's called the conversion rate, the percentage of sales that you're getting from the traffic you're getting. And that's how you define your ROI.
Now, to use the example that you have, a woman wanting to lose some weight before her wedding, and she discovers your page. What would you say to somebody who says, isn't that just, playing on their fears, or that's not really honest? How would you respond to that?
Well, marketing has to fill a need, but not do it in a sleazy way. It's all persuasion. If you go and you buy any product out there, you don't even know that you want to buy that product yet. And there's some emotional trigger that happens that makes you want to purchase something. So let's say you see some random product on some site and you don't trust that site. You grab the product and you put it into Amazon and you go buy it there.
That's true. That is definitely true.
It's not sleazy that you want to buy that product. It just happens that you don't feel comfortable buying it from that one person. So how can you persuade them to feel comfortable about buying from you? And you want to figure out ways to make yourself feel credible, it being secure, and that you're an authority in that niche so you can really help that person solve that problem. So you want to lower their barrier of entry to get them to convert with you and to make money. Because if you don't figure out those pain points, then you're basically just selling to everybody. So a lot of you guys have heard about target audiences or avatars. If you're not really selling to that individual person, then you're selling to everybody. And you shouldn't be selling to everybody. You should be focusing on one individual, sell to that one person consistently over and over. And the more you can sell that, whatever it is, that $1, that $10, that $100, the more you can sell that individual sale, you can learn more from each customer and then make it easier for the next person to buy. And that's what the process of conversion optimization is. You're continuously optimizing your site to improve your conversion rates.
Yeah, and I definitely am not one of those people that thinks it's dishonest or anything. I've talked to several people, or maybe it's just a couple people that I've talked to several times, but they're not about branding. They're not about selling themselves. They don't always agree with the salesman mentality, but my stance is we're always selling something, whether it's a widget to you or, a diet plan to the pre-wedding lady, or, a solution or something, or an idea to a kid. We're always selling something. Just some of us are better at it than others, and you're trying to do this kind of the science behind it, right?
Yeah, well, Ellery, you're doing it as well. Everybody's doing it at some level. I've been following you for a couple of weeks now, so I see you changing your website. You're making tweaks here. You're making tweaks on your social media. You're making tweaks to your sidebar, your website. You're doing the exact same thing I'm doing. As you see how things change on your own site, you can then understand your website a lot better. After you do that for a while, eventually you're going to know if you add one button or add one link, you're going to see a difference in either subscribers, leads, sales, or whatever. And you should be able to figure that out by your analytics that you look at. And you could do that. So you could do that for everything. You could also do that for your podcast. You can be tweaking your artwork inside of iTunes to move up in rankings. You can be doing that for your search engine rankings to get more traffic. There's a million different things that you can be doing.
What's one of the best things to do, when you're first starting out like me to get more traffic and gain an audience? A lot of people talk about email lists, which I completely agree with. But in reading, I'm 70 pages or so into Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm kind of thinking maybe not less about email, but more about the social side of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you need to build a foundation. If you do not have an audience, then no one's going to listen to you. So you can write the best blog post in the world, you can have the greatest podcast, you can have the best sound in the world, but if you don't have that foundation, you don't build a tribe, no one's going to be around to listen to you. You're going to be creating a field of dreams. You can't just build it and people just show up. So you need to figure out really what to do outside of your own site. And that's really what the secret is to building traffic. What you want to do to build traffic is do everything you can everywhere except your own site. So what I mean by that, guest posts, you want to create articles on other people's sites, drive traffic to your site. You want to create a community inside Facebook and get engaged with them there. You want to talk to people and answer questions on Twitter. You want to go to Google Plus and join communities. You want to really get engaged with other places that are not your site. Because once you get engaged with those places, then they're going to click on your links and they're going to drive traffic back to your site. And that's how you generate traffic.
Yeah, I've noticed some of my traffic sources, through Google Analytics and things like that comments on other blogs are huge. And then, of course, Facebook is huge, Twitter, LinkedIn, and even a little bit of, a little Google Plus. I'm even starting to get some traffic from Pinterest. Thanks to Cynthia Sanchez. So I'm trying to do a little bit of those. Am I spreading myself too thin, or do you think I've hit the high points and should keep going in that direction?
Well, you're only spreading yourself too thin if you're doing stuff that's taking up too much time and not producing results. Because if it doesn't produce results, don't spend any time on it. Pinterest didn't work for me. I probably didn't spend enough time on nurturing my graphics and doing it, but it really wasn't working for me as a traffic driver. So I stopped focusing on that. And right now I'm focusing a lot on Google Plus, a little bit of LinkedIn, and a lot of Facebook and Twitter. And the more I go out and I engage with people, talk to humans and really engage with them, then they come back to me with real commentary, and we're able to, have like a live open discussion about something, and that people see that, and more people follow me, and I get my tribe becomes bigger, and I become more of an authority in my niche that I'm talking about. If you don't have an audience already and you're building quilts or, sewing, go out to Twitter, do a Twitter search for something related to, sewing or knitting, or even the type of yarn that you use, and find those one or two people who are talking about that and engage with them. Don't follow them out of the blue. Just engage with them. Answer questions. Maybe somebody doesn't know how the right type of yarn to buy, so you're answering their question on what type of yarn to buy, or someone's showing off their great quilt that they just built, and now you could just say, "Oh, wow, that's an amazing quilt. I love that." And all you're doing is engaging with that one person, because that one individual could be more likely your target audience.
So I have a few questions about the business side for you. Yeah, how long have you owned your own business, and the Alex Designs part, and done the optimization and had clients? How long have you done that?
I created my LLC in 2004.
In 2004. And have you been full-time self-employed since 2004?
No, I stopped working at the dotcom in 2011. And, just a brief story about that. My dotcom that I worked for, it went public. And I had the dreams of retiring out of the dotcom boom, making a lot of money, paying off basically all my debt, paying off my house, and living, the dotcom boom life that everyone else was. And I worked there for 11 years, and I didn't see that. I was able to pay off majority of my debt before leaving, but every day I thought I was getting fired the next day. So from 2004 to 2011, I was essentially building up my own business, inside the office, taking, calls in the bathroom, or then running home and finishing up work and getting through deadlines. I slept for like 4 hours for like 4 years. And
Yeah.
this was all before the 4-hour work week. So
Yeah. That was a 2007 book. So
exactly. So when all this stuff came to fruition and I was finally let go, I was literally unemployed for my drive home. It took me about a half hour to drive home, and I came home and I was empowered to just start my own business full time.
Now, we talked a little bit before we started recording. How did you get your very first client?
I did work for free. That's how I got my first client. When I first started and the internet was really just getting started, everything was new, and I wanted to get as much experience as I possibly could. So I went and I tried to find people with businesses that I could do free websites for. And I learned a lot through that process, because I'm an artist, I'm a designer. Learning code and then all of that was so overwhelming to me. I never wanted to do it, but I forced my way through it, and I'm so much happier now that I do know how to actually code, because it makes a big difference on my margins as a web designer. I don't have to outsource as much stuff. But getting my first client paid, it probably didn't come for a couple of years after doing free stuff. And I don't remember probably my first individual client, but where my business really took off was when I really started to partner with people who are a lot smarter than me in my super niche. So I found thought leaders in my industry, and I went after them to really see if I can connect with them. And I got really lucky that one of them became one of my mentors. And through my partnerships with my mentor, I was able to create a huge referral business. And I receive referrals now 10 years later from people who, I met a long, long time ago. And I have people who refer me that I never met, because it's all a word of mouth business. And, when you do web design, you probably hire people, and there's so many unreliable people out there. They put a web design together for you and they just don't show up, or they just deliver something to you that you didn't expect. So for a long time, I positioned myself as just a reliable web designer, and it got me a lot of business for many years.
So you've been doing this for several years, full time for a few years, and you just in the last couple weeks or so launched the Marketing Optimization podcast. What brought you to decide to do that, and what's that process been like?
I tried to create a podcast in 2008 previously, but I quit. And 90 days ago, I restarted my journey to get my podcast launched. It's something I always wanted to do. I've been a podcast listener forever. Actually, when I was at the Diet and Fitness website, we created a podcast there, video podcast. So I've already been through the whole process of doing it, but doing it for myself was really a different challenge. And overall, I'm pretty an introverted person. And in the last 2 years, I've been doing a lot of personal development. And as they say, you need to do everything you can outside of your comfort zone. And the more uncomfortable that you can get, and you can push through that resistance, the better person you're going to be. And it came down to the podcast being about that. If I was able to make myself more comfortable in front of the mic every day a little bit better, then eventually I'll become a better speaker. I'll become a little bit more extroverted. I'll be able to communicate with other people. I won't forget my questions as I'm talking to the people. But I've always had this underlying desire to get my message out there, because I think I can really see things differently as a web designer than most do. I'm able to look at websites and tell you very easily of what you're doing wrong, or at least what you can try differently going forward. And I know that there's not many people out there who get it like I do. And because I do get it, I'm able to really talk to the people who I want to interview. And that's why I created the podcast, because I have questions for people who I want to interview, because I want to get smarter. And now that I work from home, me going through my personal development journey, I don't associate myself with anybody who is going to bring me down. I don't hang out with friends from high school anymore who may be doing things that I don't want to anymore. I'm specifically focusing on getting further faster, and how my growth can be very exponential and have a very successful 2014. So me interviewing experts every single week, I'm hanging out with the smartest people. I'm interviewing them. I'm hanging out with Ellery, a smart guy who's empowering me right now to talk about my life, and it's making me a better person every day. I join mastermind groups. I join meetups in my local area, and the only people I hang around with are the people that are going to empower me.
That's such a cool feeling, isn't it? And if I didn't mention it before, I got to meet, there's a string of people that I've met and then afterward interviewed from the platform conference. But, isn't it such a cool thing, Alex, to spend, and you're doing it, and I don't have that same opportunity all the time, but to spend your time with people who are like-minded and encouraging, and that they're going through the same struggles that you are, but are finding ways through it. Isn't that cool? I love it.
Well, absolutely, because you feel as what they call a solopreneur, someone who works from home or is doing a lot of things themselves. You have a lot of pressure on yourself. You want to make the perfect product. You want to get out there. You want to make a lot of money. And if you think about all those problems when you sit down at your desk, you're just going to get overwhelmed, and you're not going to get anything done. And you really need to get yourself, outside of your office. I'm so guilty of it because I'm an overworker. But get yourself outside of your office, go to lunch with people, talk to people, go to conferences, go to meetups, and do anything you can to really associate yourself with people who are smarter than you, because you're going to learn a lot. Because that's what empowerment is all about. You have the motivation inside you, but until you surround yourself with other people who are going to bring that out of you, then you're just, you're wasting your talents.
And you had mentioned it just a second ago about you have you're allowing to have you are allowing your underlying message to come through. What would you say your underlying message is?
My underlying message. I don't know. It's a hard question for me to answer because I probably have a lot of underlying messages. I just think that people have so much more to offer than what they give. I understand that people have families, they have kids, they have a lot of things going on with their lives. But maybe you take an extra, hour or two to not watch so much football or stop playing video games because I can get so much done in 24 hours. I don't understand why people can't get stuff done at all. If I understand that I know how to do HTML, but there's a there's a YouTube video for anything, any problem you probably want to solve out there. So there's no excuse. So if you're stuck in a job that you hate, spend the extra time not sitting in front of the TV and work, or wake up early and do something extra. Find that one person who you think is doing absolutely amazing and making a lot of money and do exactly the same thing they are at a smaller scale. Try a whole bunch of different things and see what really works for you and focus it on making money. There's nothing wrong with you making money. You're going to have to pay your bills. And that's why I did stuff for free at the beginning, because I really wanted to understand what those pain points of people were in order to how I can relate to these clients and really offer a lot of value. Because that's what it comes down to. People are going to pay you if they want to work with you and you're able to offer them value.
And to that point, that I usually have some questions that I ask at the end, but a lot of your comments are integrating the answers to those questions. So I'm going to change it up, my format just a little bit, and ask some of those now. What does a typical day look like for you? You said you can pack so much stuff into 20 to 24 hours, and you want to replicate the success of people that you think are successful. So let me ask you, because I think you're pretty successful. I like what you're doing. I like your message. It's one of the reasons why I have you on the show. What is maybe a 24 hours or maybe just the waking part, but what does a day look like for you, and maybe I can copy that?
Absolutely. It's my day starts with a morning ritual. I wake up maybe 5 or 6 a.m. and for the first half hour or hour of my day, I do not do anything related to technology. I don't check my phone, I don't check my email, and I just either journal. I usually journal, or I draw, or I write for that first hour, or I read. But lately, in the last couple of months, I've been drawing and writing. But something that really takes you offline to allow your brain to expand. And I do that for about the first hour. And then I go through a process of, feeding my dogs, walking my dogs, getting some exercise, doing a run. But then I do an hour of power. It's influenced by Tony Robbins. Essentially, you go through a process of really thinking about all the celebrations and what you're grateful for. So really thinking back to any part of your life or defining a part of your life and thinking about what you're grateful for. And I do that probably around 7 a.m. And I do that for about a half hour. And then I probably start working around 10 a.m. But by the time I start working at 10 a.m., I've already gone through a process that's created my foundation for the whole entire day. So it doesn't matter what happens the rest of the day. I've already gone through a process where I'm so happy with my life, it doesn't matter what happens. And then I start working at 10 o'clock, and I usually work till 10 at night.
I know a little bit about those long days. I think my first interview this morning was at 7 a.m. So I'm usually up at just a couple minutes after 6. But when you start working early and you're doing things that you love doing, and you read or have some coffee and write like you're talking about, it really sets the tone for the rest of the day, and you feel like you get a lot more done when you start. I wouldn't say you go to work at 6:30 in the morning, but you start investing in yourself at 6:30 in your morning, and that does, to me, have a drastic change on the rest of the day.
Yeah, every day I feel that if I don't put that foundation in it in the morning, then the rest of the day I just don't feel together. And a lot of it has to do with the exercise, running in the morning, because when you're able to really take in a lot of oxygen at once and go for a run, what you feel when you go for a run or a long walk. You get empowered. You get like a ton of ideas and you get inspired. It's because your brain is working and you're able to take in a lot of oxygen and you're able to actually produce endorphins that, produce a high. And that really is my brainstorming part of my day. Like I come back from a run and all I want to do is all I am is empowered. I want to take over the world. I want to do as much as I possibly can within those next 24 hours.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of studies, a lot of people talk about, if you're stuck for ideas and wondering what to do next, just go for a walk or something, get out of the rut that you're in physically, get out and go walk around outside or go do something, get some exercise, because your brain will function better on the oxygen, number one, and number two, because you're not focusing on the mental block that you're staring head on. You're getting out and getting around that.
Yeah, majority of all the problems that you have in your life, they're all in your head, and you probably don't have those problems anyway, but you're creating those problems. So if you can get into a routine where you're proactively anticipating that everything is going to be better, like nothing can stop you, because you can run into problems, or you can have problems with clients, or you have your bills to deal with. And you can easily just change those problems by changing your state, whether it's going for a run or, doing some, mind mapping where you're immediately flipping the triggers in your brain. And you can really change your life in just like 5 minutes by doing that, by changing your state.
Do you think every business is a social business? I was thinking about asking you that question, and obviously decided to do that. But you're talking about different social media networks that you're connected to, and some that you're not. Do you think every business is a social business?
You need to provide a ton of value unconsciously. Go out of your way to help as many people as you possibly can, and you will get it in return in the long run. And that's a social business. People want to work with people, especially in the B2B space, web design business. People want to work with me, and that's why they hire me. So you have to do that socially. So how can I find more people that would be my ideal clients? Because I get a lot of people who ask me to do work for them, and I don't do work for everybody. I pick and choose the clients that I want. How can I do that? By being social. I go out of my way to really identify and create deep relationships with people, not only online, but I take those online relationships offline. So shortly, there's a bunch of conferences coming up, and I'm anticipating those conferences. So I'm trying to really focus on creating relationships with people online, because I know that I'm going to be meeting them in January for a conference. And that way, there's not a blind slate when I meet them. I can go up to them, I can introduce myself and say, oh, I love that conversation that we had online, and we can really identify with each other. Maybe there's a way that we can leverage each other and really help each other take each other to the next level. And that's social. How you can really figure out how to partner with people who maybe can benefit you in the long run.
And Alex, being on the Empowered podcast, you might have guessed we would talk a little bit more about the word empower. And you kind of answered this question in the recording. Is about 7 minutes ago, if anybody wants to go back to it. But what does the word empower mean to you?
Well, when I think about empower, I get this feeling of being juiced. You get this feeling that when you get an idea, that no matter what that idea is going to be the best thing that's going to change your life. So maybe you go out, you sign up for a course, or you buy a book. That's empowering you to do something. But that feeling, it's always been inside you the whole time. And in order for that execution to come out and those ideas that come out on paper, you really need to be empowered by the people around you. And you're going to do that by connecting with other people, because the people around you are going to be the ones who get the best out of you. You want to put yourself out there and be criticized. And that's really what's going to make you think. How many times have you been at work and, maybe a coworker has pissed you off, or a client's pissed you off? You think about that same exact thing for, days or maybe even weeks. That's empowering you to think that stuff, because someone else has triggered that to make that happen. So how can you get the best out of you that's positive for the rest of your life? How can you be empowered? You get that by surrounding yourself with people who are going to bring that out of you. They're going to criticize you and make you really think to get the best out of you. And that is really what is the difference of how my podcast was successful. And I know I didn't answer that question, but previously, but I was empowered to make my podcast successful because of the people around me. And we can go into that in detail if you want.
Yeah, go for it. I'll let you tell the story of the course that you took and what has led to the success that you've had. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm the type of guy who's always looking for that magic pill, that that course that I'm going to sign up for, and it's really going to be the one that's changed my life. I'm so guilty of that. I've been to a million different courses. I've been to listen to all the audiobooks or read all the books. I'm always looking for that one course is really just going to be a difference maker. And I thought I can do that for podcasting too. So I went through a bunch of different stuff. I went through all of Cliff Ravenscraft's stuff. I went through all of Pat Flynn's stuff. To really figure out some of the technical aspects, because all of those unknowns of podcasting were really frustrating. I didn't understand anything until I actually did it. And
I know exactly what you mean.
It's hard to explain, but as soon as you release into iTunes and you have your podcast out there, you say, why did I stress about that so much? Because it wasn't that big of a deal. But I was able to really focus on being social about my launching my podcast. How can I build my foundation of my tribe to really ensure that my product is going to be good when I get out there? So what I did was I put together a demo of my podcast, which is video and audio, and I sent it out to all my colleagues and my mastermind group. And everyone in there gave me a lot of feedback. Some people agree with me, some people, just kind of cheered me on, but the criticism that I got was really what made me think. And it was through the criticism and the understanding of the ways that I really wanted to pivot my brand is how I was able to get successful. And because I had engaged with all these different people that helped me, when my podcast launched, I was able to go back to them and say, will you please go check it out on iTunes? And while you're there, give me a rating and review as well. So within the first week, I got 50 rating and reviews inside of iTunes.
Yeah, that's pretty, and that's crazy. And you've only released, or at the time of this recording, it's only been a week. I mean, I can't talk today. It's only been a week since you released your first episode.
I think it's been about 2.5 weeks now. I have, and I've been optimizing the podcast. I'm guilty of it. I look at my numbers. I see how downloads are working, and I see how iTunes really works now as well. So I originally was going to do one per week, and then I started to release 2 per week, and now I'm up to maybe 2 or 3 per week, because the more consistency that you have, the more downloads you get, and that's why you stay in New and Noteworthy, because you have more people listening to your show. Newer shows come in, and you get more downloads. So right now, within almost 3 weeks, I have about 10 episodes in there. So every time a new person comes in, they download 10 episodes. And that makes a dramatic difference in my visibility in iTunes.
Yeah, is that what you mean about optimizing the podcast, or is there something that you do with your content as well? I've been wondering about that myself.
Every level. You can optimize the keywords in your Libsyn feed. You can optimize the artwork. You can optimize your titles. Every level of the podcast you can optimize. You can optimize your marketing, your social. Yesterday I was on a really big show, on someone else's show, and that was part of my launch strategy, to go on other people's shows that I can leverage to get a bigger audience. That's part of the optimization process, just trying to find ways that I can leverage to really get a lot of growth in the short amount of time that I'm going to be in New and Noteworthy.
I've done something similar, but I can definitely see how Amazon, New York Times bestseller, web analytics, conversion rate, quick sprout, content marketing, those are definitely keywords that somebody would want to search for. I'm just scrolling through Stitcher right now, And
also the interview, the guests that you bring on, that's something consciously you need to think about. My second and third guest are not super well known to the general audience, but in the marketing space, they are well known. So I brought those two guests on initially so I can leverage them to get more guests. And they empowered me to do that. I went to them and I said, I'm putting this together. They gave me criticism about it. And they said, use my name, leverage me, and see how you can get more guests. So every time I go out and I try to get more guests, I'm trying to get better guests. Because the next time, if I'm able to get someone who has whatever, 100,000 followers or a huge following on their blog, that could dramatically make a difference if they link to me.
yeah, absolutely. And the one that you had mentioned before about your process, how you got all the likes and things, is that in the episode called Recap 1 Podcast Launch Strategy for Success?
Yes, that's a quick breakdown of my quick launch. And my podcast it's all over the place. I kind of work like that. I tend not to follow the rules, and I tend to do things a lot differently, and that's probably my own problem that always shoots me in the foot. But I'm doing all these interviews, and they tend not to bring out my personality because I'm interviewing the guests. So I wanted to add a little bit of me in there where people can really understand my personality and connect with me. And I think that's a really big difference maker because a lot of people have commented on that show saying they love my breakdown of the review of my podcast launch.
Have we exposed the Alex Harris personality in this podcast yet?
Well, maybe in Vegas.
There you go. Yeah, well, you and I will both be there, so maybe but at the downside of that is, does it have to stay in Vegas?
Well, I'm married now, so yes, absolutely.
Well, my wife's coming with me to New Media Expo, and I'm pretty pumped about that. So as long as she can come along too.
Well, Elroy, I think that's amazing. My wife is the most amazing person in the world. I would do anything for her, but she would never come with me to a geek event. Like, it just wouldn't happen. Like, my wife is a city girl. She doesn't sit in front of a computer. And, I think that is something wonderful. You should really, empower that. I mean, that is really a beautiful thing.
Well, honestly, she might be the one editing this podcast and listening to what we're talking about before it even gets released to the public. But one of the best things and most encouraging, and to use my own word, empowering things that I've done over the last probably 2 months is have her get more involved with the podcast. In fact, I lined up a few interviews just yesterday, and I think I've gotten an email since we've been chatting from people that she found online. I showed her what gave her the suggestion. She went out and did it and gave me a list of people. But enlisting her help has been one of the best things for me, just as encouragement, as focus. I can take a break and do something, and she'll edit the podcast, or I took some time off from work, or do it on the weekends, and we partner at it, and it's one of the coolest things. And I realize not everybody has that opportunity, and I'm pretty thankful for that. So, but yeah, she'll be there in Vegas with us, and we may tag team it and split up and go to different sessions and see how much we can learn and bring back to the audience and apply it to my site too, because I know I'm always looking, like you said, looking to optimize and do better. So
yeah, and I think in general, women need to be empowered more because a lot of times they're reluctant to put themselves out there. So any women out there is so much opportunity for you online. There's not enough women out there making money online, especially in podcasting. And you can really identify with people because women do create communities a lot better than men.
Yeah, and it may sound weird if you're a female and listening to this episode about two dudes talking about women online, but I've had this conversation with my wife and if you're a female and listening to this, you might agree that women are often women's own worst enemies. If you've ever said, well, why is she doing this, or who is she to do? I hear all the time, frequently, stories where women work in offices with only other women, and they kind of just trip over each other or do it on purpose. And I completely agree. That's why I think Cynthia Sanchez, that's not why she's successful, but I think that definitely has helped. She's got a great personality and great content, but she also is very unique. There's so many males doing this, and actually I haven't at this point haven't released my podcast with her, but she and I talked about it, how now at New Media Expo it's about 50-50 male to female. I don't know if it's exactly 50-50 or exactly, but it's definitely becoming more popular for people like Amy Porterfield and Cynthia to really make a difference, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I really only say that because I am consciously looking for women to bring on my show in my field, and it's hard to get them on my show, not because they're reluctant to talk, because I do video, and women do tend to be a little bit more self-conscious, but I think there's a huge opportunity out there, and I tell my wife that too. But any women out there, don't think that you don't have an opportunity, because there is a lot of opportunity out there for your voice to get out there.
Kind of like Cindy Crum.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was on episode 9 of your show. I'm kind of stalking marketingoptimization.tv right now. So
yeah, it's been a really fun experience to get the podcast out there. I probably one of the biggest lessons I learned is don't be afraid of the unknowns. And don't be influenced by other people, because you see everyone out there having great successes, and you say, why is that guy doing it and why not me? And so you compare yourself to other people, and you want to be like that too. And you really just have to have patience, be able to push through, all that mental resistance, and flawed work is better than perfect. You're going to learn a lot of stuff along the way. And I fail every single day. And that's what optimization is all about. It's about these little fails that eventually you're going to find these huge wins, because you're going to know what not to do anymore. And if you're able to actually produce really good content, then people are going to identify with it and relate to you and become social. You're going to have to eventually get outside of iTunes and actually talk to people if you want to build your audience.
Yeah. Alex, what are you doing today that's going to keep you moving forward and towards success tomorrow?
Every day I'm going to make small amounts of progress. I'm a strong believer in compound interest and compound effect. If you're able to do a little bit every day, then you're going to get better. My tagline of my life is progress equals happiness. If I'm able to make progress in my life, progress with my wife, progress with my website, progress with my podcast, progress with my money, progress with my health, then I'm going to be happy. And if you are winning at that or not, because you can sit at your desk and you can get nothing done all day, or you can get so much done all day and basically get nothing all day, and that you essentially have lost internally. And that's really how I internalize things. I have this internal conflict every day of satisfying people, but it's not about anybody else anymore. It's about me ensuring that I make progress every day, and every day progress will make you happy.
So if your life has a tagline, does it also have a theme song?
I can't think of anyone, but it would probably be Rebecca Black Friday right now.
I don't think I know that song. I'll try to listen to that after we're done.
It was like a top viral video of the year. It's Friday. It's Friday.
That one. Yeah.
I was just watching a recap on YouTube of viral videos of the year, and that's the only reason why it was in my head.
Okay. There you go. So, you're packing all of this stuff into a 24-hour period. You're very productive and you're getting a lot of things done. How do you unwind and relax? What do you do for your downtime?
I mountain bike. Absolutely. There's
all those mountains in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is 80 degrees here still now in December, but I bike. Biking or running or doing some kind of external activity where I sweat and get a lot of energy up is really a difference maker, because that's really what my can't think. My meditation is I go and I bike, and and I'm able to really just stop thinking, because I think that's what the key was for me, is that I was always overthinking everything. I'm a classic high C logical analytical person. I internalize everything, and if I'm able to really stop thinking, then I'm able to actually really progress. They say that when the scientists create the best inventions in the world, it's usually those transitional periods of that they get those ideas, like you taking a shower, or you going on a run, or whatever. But it's the times when you actually stop thinking that makes the biggest difference. And I think that's what meditation is for me.
Well, we elected to. I don't edit a lot of my shows, but we elected to edit out a part of an episode a few weeks ago talking about just getting ideas in the shower. So maybe this comment is clean enough. Oh, no pun intended. Safe enough to share out there. But you're right. It's when you're taking your mind off that activity and running or mountain biking there on those huge hills like you have in Florida, that really gets the brain flowing and allows the unfocus, when you're not focused, allows the creativity, maybe to step in. What was the last movie that you saw?
Ooh, that's actually a really good question, because I have no idea. I don't do a lot of stuff, honestly. If my wife doesn't want to go to movies, or really, I usually am just, working or hanging out with my dogs. I have a pretty, chill lifestyle. But the last movie that I saw, man, I really have no idea.
What about TV? Are you more of a TV person, or Netflix or something like that?
Well, I do watch TV every once in a while. I watch the world champion Miami Heat. I do watch them. But I on Netflix I really liked Orange Is the New Black.
That's a good one.
The other show I really liked was Homeland. I really like Homeland.
Oh yeah, that's a good show. We watched the first season and we had to stop for some reason, and so that's all we've seen. And it's so hard because I get emails from Showtime and like, will so and so do this, and I just have to delete them because it's all a spoiler alert, and thinking maybe we'll go back and check them out. So, well, Alex, what is one tip or piece of advice that you can give people like me who are just starting the podcast, or people who are wanting to start blogging, or wanting to own their own business, or start their own consulting firm like you? Anyone who's just starting out, what's one tip or piece of advice that you can give us?
Yeah, I can really identify with people who have hard time making money from their websites. And the tip that I would give you, if you really want to improve the amount of money that you make from your website, is to spend a lot of time on it. If you're not optimizing your website, and I'm not talking about SEO, I'm not talking about driving traffic to your site. I'm talking about really spending time to figure out how to either generate more leads or generate income from your website. Start looking at your website from the outside in. Take yourself outside, because you're going to have tunnel vision. You're looking at it all the time, and you're not going to be able to see the changes that you need to make. Go out and try to find who your absolutely ideal audience is, and try to really ask them questions or get them to use your site so you can really see what their perspective is. So if you're able to take yourself outside of your business and look at it from the outside in, then you can identify yourself as a customer for your own site and figure out how you would want to sell to yourself.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. If someone wanted to connect with you online, or say thanks for being on the Empowered Podcast, where would you send them to connect?
My website is alexdesigns.com, and you can get to my podcast at alexdesigns.com/podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Alex. I appreciate you taking your time and hanging out with me today.
Thanks a lot, Ellie. I had a great time.
Thanks again, Alex, for hanging out with me. I really learned a lot from this interview and this conversation, and I continue to learn from Alex and what he's doing. I did want to mention, I forgot to say so before we went into the episode, that this interview actually happened in the middle of December, before I went to New Media Expo, and just a few weeks, actually about a month and a half after we had met at the Platform Conference. So when Alex said he had just launched his podcast, he's I don't know, 4 or 5 months into it at this point, and he's just rocking the house with that. So if you haven't already, would you please leave a rating and review in iTunes? I know many of you are Stitcher users, and you can leave feedback there as well. The links for those, easy to remember. empoweredpodcast.com/iTunes. It'll take you directly there. empoweredpodcast.com/Stitcher. It will also take you directly to my show page. I just want to know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, what I can do better. And if you have any specific questions that you want me to ask guests or future guests or want me to find out for you, let me know, and I'll do the research, I'll do the background checks and whatnot, and I will just figure out the answer to your question because I want to be completely relevant to you. So again, check out Mastermind Weekend at mmweekend.com if you like camping and are interested in being part of an awesome 3-day experience of a mastermind. And as you know, I do coaching as well. And one of the things that I have realized, I've proven the concept, I've helped a lot of people with the coaching, but I realize not everybody has the $300 or $400 or the $300 a month to do coaching. So I wanted to open up something else for you. If you go to empoweredpodcast.com/mastermind, it will take you to a page on my site where I'm going to give you a few different options. I'm going to start a weekly or bi-weekly, depends on schedules, but I'm going to start a small group mastermind, maybe up to 6. I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5. I really want it to be packed with good information. I want to be able to share what I've learned from all of my guests, all of my blogging and podcast experience, and honestly being in running a business for a large IT company for 4 years. I've been in sales for 15 years. I know a lot about business and starting those up, and I want to be able to share that with you, not quite on a one-on-one basis. I realize that's cost prohibitive for some people, but if you're interested in the small mastermind, go to empoweredpodcast.com/mastermind, and it will take you right there. Sign up. I want to talk to you first just so that we can see if it's a good fit, but that way you don't have to worry about a big recurring monthly fee or a big one-time fee of one-on-one attention. We can get the collective brain power of a group of people, and I'm really excited about leading that and the Mastermind Weekend at mmweekend.com. Just one more thing, I wanted to thank our sponsor for the show, whatsnextblogging.com. If you're looking for specific tutorials on how to do something for your blog or website, maybe get Google Analytics set up, or the big thing right now is setting up Google authorship, head over to whatsnextblogging.com and you'll get free and premium high definition tutorials to show you exactly how to do anything that you might want to do with your blog. Again, that's whatsnextblogging.com, and they are the sponsor for this episode. Thank you for sticking around. I am excited, again, that you have spent this much time with me. I'm really honored that you've chosen the Empowered Podcast as part of your listening day. I'm your host, Ellery, and we'll catch you next time.